Hello, 605 Speaks peeps. I am so excited to be back in a new year. I was on hiatus for my surgery and lost my voice, so I didn't get to record until now. But obviously, my voice is back, so good or bad, that's happening. I am so excited to be live streaming in this brand new year. Today is February 10th, 2025. We finally have some snow falling here in eastern South Dakota. We've had a really dry winter. Climate change is a thing. And I've been very, very nervous for our families on the farms coming up. If we don't get a little more snow, it's going to be rough. But today I'm going to jump right into, we're going to be talking about a really important topic, something that I find important to me, very timely. Simply put, that in my opinion, today we're going to be talking about what is the American dream and how to protect it. The brief statement about where I live and where we're recording from today is that here in South Dakota, we reside on the native lands of the Oceti-Sakowin-Oyate. And that's the people of the 7 council fires of the Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota tribes. By definition, to be Caucasian in South Dakota, or really anywhere in the United States, is to be an immigrant in this land. Different groups have come from all over the world. They've come here at different times. They're all looking for the same things. They want a safe place to raise their kids. They want to build a home. They want to have a happy life. And I've lived my whole life in South Dakota. And one of the nicknames of our state is the land of infinite variety. And I love that the most. I would not have that variety in my life if people from all over didn't come here to build the same kind of life that I have. And we're not just flat grasslands. We're not just mountains or rivers. We're the people that are here too. And that's a beautiful part of our variety. And today I'm going to be talking to the CEO of South Dakota Voices for Peace. And this is, we're going to talk about how longtime residents like myself can help people that are new to our country. And they're currently working to realize that dream, because this is a new term for our current president, and he's enacted some executive orders that have caused a lot of chaos in the lives of some of our community members. And so I'm really excited to bring on with me Jen. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. And I am so grateful that you're talking to me today, because I have a lot of questions. Oh, first thing, you're the COO, not the CEO. So
Chief Operations Officer.
Chief Operations Officer. So you're kind of like, you're like a dove. You're the dove in the Voices for Peace.
I like that way of thinking.
just walk into every team meeting with "Ooh."
Yep.
How did you tell me a little bit about your organization and how you came to be in the position you're in?
South Dakota Voices for Peace was founded in 2017 by Tunisia Islam, is one of our co-founders and is our CEO. And our mission is to uplift and enable healing and build power in our immigrant, refugee, and Muslim communities by uplifting voices and by walking alongside anybody else who's also doing the work of dismantling and disrupting bigotry and hatred. And we envision a state that is diverse, inclusive, and anti-racist. And we have expanded from 1 employee in 2017, and right now we are at 11 employees.
And I've seen recently you're looking for more bilingual employees, like you're looking to add to your team.
Yes. We are looking to add 2 more positions, a bilingual administrative assistant and a bilingual community health worker.
How many languages are spoken by your office team?
Right now it is English and Spanish.
All right.
There are several staff who are fluent in Spanish.
I have, before I had to cut and run from Twitter, X. Twitter is where my social media life was born, and I know Olympia through Twitter. Yes. And so I love seeing her on there, and I also love seeing a team of women. It's like you're just a group of moms that are like, we're here, we're going to take care of you. And that's what I really want from you today is how do people like myself, who I have a strong natural run-in instinct. If I hear people yelling, I go towards it instead of away from it. I have a lot of friends who are natural nurturers. They want to put their arms around everybody they can and protect them. I know my question to you before we started recording was, how do I be helpful without falling into white savior? I'm I'm definitely a crazy white lady. How do I stay on the good side of that? And right now we have a lot of people in our community that are in varying statuses with their immigration, and they're scared that it will matter. And so what can we do in our community to show them that they do have allies?
And that's a great question. And that's a message that we are trying to get out to people. Now, some of the differences that we can touch on is the difference between white saviorism and white allyship. Saviorism is when your ego is involved. When you're doing it to benefit you, you're doing it to change the world around you. It's filling some sort of void in you. And it could be a void that is religious in nature, political in nature. But it's really important that when you are wanting to help, is to really look inside yourself and just identify, where is this help coming from? Because if it is something because you want to fix something so it looks like you, so that it fits your needs, it doesn't change your community, you're trying to get something else to change to fit your community, then you're running into the saviorship. Your ego doesn't really have a role to play when it comes to allyship. That's when you set aside your ego, you set aside your own needs, you set aside your own wants, and you identify, what are the skills that I can give? What is the talent I can give? What is the time I can give? What is the donations I can give? Even being a donor is an ally. And so
it's hard for women like me, especially in our social media era. A big part of my personality is I have a huge ego. I market on my ego. I live on being the loudest person in my center of my universe. And by using, I try to use that voice for good, but my fear, and I know I've looked through your Paper the Town toolkit and some other things too, to make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn in our community. And I think one of the things that I struggle with right now is some of the voices in our community that could speak up about the experience of working through their immigration status, or how they came to Sioux Falls, or why they're afraid of things. They feel like they can't be public either right now, because I mean, they're afraid that once they've become visible, someone will come knocking on their door. And so I think that's another thing, is how people like me that can be loud, how can we be loud for them, but still say what needs to be said from their perspective?
And to be able to do that, you need to know more about the people you're speaking for. And the way to do that is ask directly in community, and to hear what people have to say. We have to go into allyship with curiosity. In the training that I do with Voices for Peace, bystander to upstander, I go into community and we talk for about an hour and a half to 2 hours about how do we recognize our stereotypes and biases, where do they come from, how do we manage them and work through them, and what does allyship look like? What does it mean to be an upstander? And I teach in that training, curiosity and judgment cannot live in the same space. So you cannot be curious and judgmental at the same time. So it is being aware of what is going on with you and making sure that you try to keep that judgment away and stay curious in the process. And you need to stay curious in hearing what somebody is telling you they need. They may tell you, I don't need anything. Listen to them. Don't tell them, oh, but you could do this. Oh, but you could do that. That is where you run into problems in trying to tell somebody. If you're not an attorney, if you're not giving medical
Right.
advice, really it is listening to what people have to say and then working with that. And sometimes you're going to hear the exact opposite of what you think you should be hearing. And as soon as you hear that judgment voice in your head that says, no, they need to do this, this, and this, you need to shut it down and go back into a space of curiosity and ask to learn more. Why don't you want anybody to say anything? I'm just trying to understand so I can better help. And sometimes people just don't want to talk, and you have to accept that. And it's not about you. It's never about you. It is about the people you're trying to help.
So we have to use improv rules instead of saying what if and yeah, but we have to say yes and.
Yes, exactly.
So and let them lead us. What are some things that we can do? I think that definitely in my friend group, there's a lot of us that we want to have a way to be visible in the community for the selfish reason of we don't like what's happening. We don't we didn't vote for this. We don't encourage this. We don't like how it's being done. You're not going to find anybody that doesn't say, if we have a violent, convicted criminal, then we understand why they're first on the list. But when that means also that now they've said, we're going to go into schools, we're going to go into hospitals, we're going to go into churches, places that even if you aren't a sanctuary city, culturally, in every culture I know of, those are places of sanctuary. And now that they're saying that there are no protections, there's a lot of us that we want to do something visible so that the people in our community, even if they don't know us, they know we're going to be people you can come to. And I feel like that's, you directed me to look at your toolkit, the Paper the Town toolkit. I'm going to try and see if I can share that screen. Maybe. That's going to be one of the ways, isn't it?
Yes. And so one of the ways that you can be seen in community doing the work is, one, being loud on your social media, doing the asks, using your leveraging that privilege that we have as white women. We can use our whiteness to get indoors that people of color may not be able to. But as women, we do understand some of the effects of being marginalized. But what we need to do is we need to get out beyond sharing information on social media, is we need to get out in community and find out where can we be for that presence. And so one of those is the Paper the Town that we have, the toolkit, where it has the Know Your Rights. And the rights that we share are for everyone. It doesn't matter your immigration status, citizenship status. You're here. These rights apply to you. They apply to me. And it's really important for all of us to know these rights. And so to be able to share these rights with our community members, we offer them in English and Spanish. And to be able to share that information so that people know, okay, these apply to me as well. And when we are taking paper copies of this and bringing it to immigrant and refugee-owned businesses and restaurants, and saying, here you go, I just want you to stay safe, I'm sharing this information with you, that's really important. And that is where you start developing trust. And it's really important that we go out and go to these restaurants and businesses, get to know our neighbors, get to know the communities here, go shopping. Right. It's a great way of just starting the gathering information. And it may make you feel uncomfortable. You may have to ask where things are at or what are things. But
it will never make you feel as uncomfortable as someone who's afraid that law enforcement is coming for them for no reason.
Exactly.
I will never be as uncomfortable as that in my life, just by default.
Exactly. And we know that once we leave a space of uncomfortability, we get to go home and be comfortable.
Right.
Other people, nope, it follows them everywhere they go, and the worry is there, and the harm is there. And
Mhm.
allyship is creating space for healing, creating opportunity for healing, and just knowing, letting people know that they're not alone.
We talked, a friend of mine and I, about it's become very common in my circle and in greater parts of the community to wear buttons or badges that say I'm a safe person, for our friends that are part of the LGBTQ plus community, and everything from the rainbow flags to I'm an ally, I'm a safe person. um, and we said we need a button to tell the dreamers that we're a safe person. And I actually made one for one of my friends where we just put on it that I believe in your dream, because that's what it is. Their dream is to just live and work in my town. Who's afraid of that? You know?
Right. And we have the buttons that you can get at Voices for Peace on our online store. No human is illegal.
Oh,
And with in the frame of the state of South Dakota, to let people know that you can wear that, and that tells people that you are a safe person, especially for our immigrant community.
now I'm going to have to find that and share that this afternoon too. So
Yes,
I
yes.
hope you've got the Christmas elves on the off season making buttons, because
Yeah.
we'll be ordering those up.
So there's, it is wearing the button, the shirt, having the bumper sticker as the first step into allyship. Absolutely. But now we need to go into that brave space of doing the work. Now you can start wearing it, but now what is the next step on allyship? And it can make us nervous. It can make our throat gets hung up on what is the right word to say. Our brain is telling us, well, don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up, don't offend, don't offend. And then we kind of get into the freeze space, and then we don't do anything because we don't know what to do and we don't want to offend.
And I feel like, and this is not a question really that anybody can answer, but the number of people that have said to me, but I don't know what to do because I don't want to lose my job.
Yes.
I don't know what to say on social media. My boss watches my social media. I don't know what I would do if I was at work and ICE came in, because would I lose my job if I intervened? Would and I I just I don't know. There's a lot of things I would do. I would lose my job to save a human life. I mean,
Right.
we so often, especially women, I would die for my child. I've often said dying is easy to do. We're all going to do it one day, but I would kill for mine. I would go farther, and I think I would lose a job to save a life. Would I put a crowd in danger? No. But would I find a way, or would I do my best to at least cause a scene? Probably. But there are so many people that we are a paycheck to paycheck state and nation, I think. And there is that fear of, will I be arrested? Will I lose my job? And some of us are going to have to be
Some of
visible.
us may, and it is asking those tough questions, but I bring up too, I'm seeing a lot of posts on social media. I would have hidden Anne Frank. I would have done whatever. And
Yes.
it gives me great concern, because that would have been dangerous at the time. And so to passively say, I would have done things differently is one thing, but now's the time to do something differently.
Right. And we have
And
the education from the past of how can we do. I'd like to think that we're going to step up as a nation before we're putting people go left or go right when you get off the train.
Right.
I mean, that read more than Anne Frank, people. There's a lot about 1933 in Germany, Poland, and Austria that you should be reading about. Um, I would like to think that we do those things that will keep all of us from going to jail or losing our jobs or losing our lives now.
And once one person steps forward, then it feels more comfortable to say, okay, I can follow that person. Okay, I can take the lead. Okay, yes, there's more of us that can do this. And it is talking to everyone about knowing your rights. Doesn't matter who it is. Again,
Yes.
the same rights apply to everyone. So holding up those rights of telling people you can remain silent too. You need to
Exactly.
make sure there's a valid warrant that has a judge's signature and it has somebody's name on it before you let them in. I mean, those apply to all of us. And so while I know that it seems scary, and I guess it depends on where you live and your life circumstances. So we do need to give grace to people who choose not to step into that space.
Because we don't know who they are hiding or who they are protecting or who they need to go home to.
Right, right. And we need to spend less time judging and more time on the curiosity and figuring out, okay, what can I do? Because if we spend a lot of time saying, well, they could do this and they could have done that, and why didn't they do this? We're wasting time and our energy on hypothetical things and things that happened in the past. We need to focus on what we can do right now. And each person has to decide what they're willing to risk for another human being. And sometimes it may be loss of family. Maybe it'll be loss of friends. Maybe it'll be loss of workplace, house of worship. It is looking at all that you have and deciding, am I surrounded by people who would not support this? Or am I with people who are like-minded?
Right.
And if they don't support that, reach out to us. Let's find people who will support you in your work. You don't have to do it alone. We have to do this in community so that we can better help the people who are in need.
One thing that I know your organization has been great about and getting the word out about is, first of all, you guys have started an online news source that's multilingual. Also talking about, I think immediately everybody was like, ICE is in town. And I know I'm someone who said, ICE has always been in town, man. You didn't care because you didn't hear about it. Their vehicles are a lot more nondescript than some of the other ones, and they're not pulling people over the average way. So we've had a freezer in town for as long as we can. I grew up in the Riverside neighborhood, which is right next to now Smithfield, but when I grew up it was John Morrell, and there's a large immigrant population there. And we know, being close to Worthington with the Tyson plant and things like that, that we have seen in the past, unrelated to the events of today, where there have been raids, like a sweeping, like what we're seeing is happening in other parts of the country. And I know the not sharing, unless you physically see someone being taken yourself and you can confirm it yourself, to share ICE is in town or whatever is not helpful. It's more scary. But I think a little tiny bit, and this is the white savior side of all of us, we wanted there to be a raid so we could line up in public and throw bricks. Maybe just I would throw bricks. I can't speak for everybody, but how fearful is our immigrant community of something like that? If how do we that would not be at risk for being taken in something like that, how do we help? I don't want to say publicize, but how do we help be that front line?
So it is being in the know of the rights, being in the know that spreading information, if it doesn't necessarily pertain to you, refrain from that. I understand that many posts have come up that ICE is here, ICE is here. Some people are posting it because they want to intimidate community members. They want to show the upper hand. Other people are sharing it because they are sharing it in fear of their families and friends and community members being harmed through the deportation process. But it's really getting to know who are the advocates in the community, who are the organizations doing the work. South Dakota Voices for Peace powers the South Dakota Dream Coalition. And this is a coalition of almost a dozen immigrant-facing or immigrant-led nonprofits that work together to provide information to our communities as things progress with the new administration. So as soon as we have information, we try to get it translated into various different languages so it can goes out to community. But some of the organizations that we're working with in the Dream Coalition is the Hub South Dakota, Caminando Juntos, South Dakota Hispanic Chamber. When you go to the South Dakota Dream Coalition on Facebook to see the page, you'll be able to see all the different organizations that participate in the Dream Coalition. And it's us working together from Brookings down to Yankton to keep us aware of what is happening in our communities and what we can best do to serve our communities. Right now, we are looking at family preparedness. How do we help our immigrant communities be prepared if there would be a deportation? Who's going to take care of the kids? Who's going to pick up the kids? So we have a power of attorney that we have in English and Spanish. And of course, only the English is accepted. But the Spanish is there to help people understand what they're putting together for family preparedness. But it's getting that information out into communities so that they can be best prepared. Unfortunately, we have had reports where kids are not going to school. They are staying home with their families. We've had reports of after school activities. Kids are staying home because they are very concerned. They want to make sure that they stay safe. Raids can happen anywhere now, like you said. Sanctuary is not a thing. And so houses of worship and schools and hospitals are no longer safe from ICE. And of course, every hospital, every school will have different procedures on how they handle interactions with law enforcement. But it is getting that information to those places so that even they are reminded, your workplace is reminded of the rights and what they can do.
I did not know if your workplace is a public place like a gas station or a Target or a school or a hospital. I did not know until reading through some of the information from you guys that even there, the clerk at the gas station can walk up to the ICE agent and say, better show me a warrant.
Yes.
Show me a warrant. Show me why you're in my building and give me a name and I'll put it on the overcom and see if they're here for you. And if they aren't, you're going to have to go door knock somewhere else. I think that we're probably seeing less of that dramatic stuff because South Dakota has never been a sanctuary state. We've never been Sioux Falls is not a sanctuary city. So we're not seeing the epic drama unfold right before our very eyes. But in the heart of a little kid that's hearing bits and pieces of this from all over, it's very, very real in their minds.
It is.
Fear of everywhere.
Right. And we need to prepare our homes, our schools, our houses of worship, our businesses, like we do if there's a fire,
yes.
If there is an earthquake, if there is a flood. It's emergency preparedness. We need to do the same thing and we need to treat it as such.
What would you do if anything separated you from your family?
Exactly.
How would you know they're safe?
The power attorney that we are offering is not just towards our immigrant communities. Again, anybody can fill this out to be prepared in case something happens. Who's going to help take care of the kids if the parents aren't able to, or the guardian is not able to? So it's really keeping that line of open communication with your family and with your community as to what are next steps if something bad happens or if there's a deportation.
What do you think is the number one message that allies should be honing in on right now? What when I end this video and I'm like, I feel motivated right now to go do something, what is the number one thing that we should be focusing on?
There's the number one thing is the know your rights, getting that information and practicing it with our families, with our houses of worship, bringing that information to your clergy, bringing this information to your workplace, and start the conversation and normalizing the discussion of know your rights.
And everyone should know that the police, as far as I know, everywhere, it doesn't matter what level of law enforcement they are and or why they're there talking to you, they are allowed to lie to you.
Yes.
They are.
ICE is notorious for creating circumstances with threats or lying to be able to get where they need to get and who they need to get. So that's why it's really important that we just stay silent, ask for the warrant, look at the warrant. Does it have a name? Is it signed by a judge? And then go from there. It is to stay silent. And it's okay to stay silent. Usually when, if we get a traffic ticket and we see the lights going on behind us and we pull over, our heart's racing, we're nervous as all heck. And the police officer comes and sometimes we just spill our guts. Oh, I was running from here because I was late from here. And you give them a whole story trying to justify why you were speeding.
And then they tell you, ma'am, your tail light was out.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
And just as I'm about to say kilos.
And so it really is practicing in your head what is needed so that you can get through that you need to stay silent. The other thing that I would suggest is reaching out to Voices for Peace for our bystander to upstander training, where we go into houses of worship, community groups, classrooms, whoever wants to have us, where we come and talk about what it is to be an upstander and how can we do it. We don't have to try to save an entire community. Sometimes it's being an upstander just in one circumstance. It could be teaching our kids how to be appropriate on social media. It can be in the workplace when you see discrimination happening. How do you have a conversation about that? It is and we've had several reports of our African-American communities where people are driving by calling them the N-word. What can we do and what needs to be done to be an upstander in those circumstances? It's role playing. It is a muscle that you have to keep working. Allyship is a verb. It is something that we can do it in small steps, or we can be out in the front leading the charge. It's just depending on where you are at based on your lived experiences and based on your availability and what you're able to give.
I think women have for far too long believed that we're supposed to be quiet. We're supposed to look the other way. If we draw attention to someone else being hurt, we will also be hurt. We will also face a physical repercussion. We all know that for far too long, we've taught our little girls, if you're in trouble, yell fire. Don't yell for help. Like I said, I am far more likely to be a run towards than run away. And that is something I definitely see the privilege of being white and middle class in America, because I've definitely had moments where I ran in and yelled at somebody for something they were doing on the street where everybody else had to stand down. And I think that more of us need to harness that power. We have it. We have it. It's there. And we're all carrying cameras now. We're all carrying, you're seeing, I think, a new openness to being an upstander instead of just a bystander, because we feel like we can access our entire community at once and say, hey, if they do hurt me, this is where I am.
Yes, and it is something that you have to role play with your friends, with your family. If I saw this, I will have my camera out and I know I'm going to try to do this, or I will say whatever. The one thing that you want to refrain from is name calling and sitting in the negative with the negativity in the comments, because you also have to understand, as an upstander, you are also modeling to the rest of the community when you are being an upstander to dismantle and disrupt a situation. Your kids are watching.
Right.
Their kids are watching. Everybody's watching you. All eyes are on you. When you become an upstander, you're taking the attention away from the victim and the perpetrator in that moment when you step forward to disrupt it. And the goal is not to engage with the perpetrator ever, because if they have the audacity to be mean in public, there's nothing you can say to change that.
Right.
So don't feed into it. That's what they want.
Right.
Our job is to go to the victim and say, I saw that. I heard that. I witnessed that. I am so sorry. What can I do for you? And it's getting between them and the perpetrator. And that shows community, oh, I can do that too. I don't have to be aggressive. I don't have to get into a name calling incident. No, you're just going to the victim and saying, I'm here.
Right.
I'm safe, and I'm just going to stay with you until this incident goes away.
Right.
And I'm going to hear you. I'm going to listen to what you have to say.
That's
And
what we talk about, being out in the bar and things like that. Girl code. If you see somebody getting picked on by predatory, hate to stereotype you guys, but in my experience, predatory males, you go and you're all of a sudden telling that girl you're her best friend. Oh, Jane, I haven't seen you in forever. And I think that a lot of women need to harness that, for that sense of girl code. We need to crank it up a notch and use it more and more. I also know on your website you have instructions for how to contact legislators. Is that part of being an ally?
Absolutely. Great question. It is calling our federal legislators, Rounds, Johnson, and Thune, and letting them know what you think about how they're doing their job. And if there's a particular issue, now is a great time to contact them every day to see what kind of response that they can give on how the world is treating Lutheran Social Services of South Dakota.
Yeah.
Because of those tweets from certain people. It's national, and all eyes are on South Dakota Lutheran Social Services. So where are they at on it?
Right.
And it is getting involved in local politics, getting people out to vote, running yourself. Who is on your city council, your school board, county commissioner? Who's at the state level? Developing relationships with them. It is getting involved and paying attention to what is happening in peer. And if you don't have the capacity, there's many other groups that out there that are tracking it, that you can be a part of email listservs to see the latest thing that is happening. Allyship isn't just for immigrants. Allyship is for any way that somebody's marginalized. It could be allyship for our transgender community. It could be allyship for our Muslim community against the rise of Islamophobia, the rise in anti-Semitism. I was at the Southern Poverty Law Center earlier or in September of last year, and they were talking to us about how we are at the same levels of hate now as Nazi Germany was in the 30s. And so And people say, oh no, it couldn't happen. Oh no, they don't know what they're talking about. Oh no, they're misunderstood. No, the people are feeling it.
Right.
For you to be able to dismiss somebody else's pain because it doesn't fit what you think is happening is really unfair. And that actually is more harmful to diminish or invalidate somebody's pain.
If you don't, I feel like in our country today, if you don't feel that that's true, if you don't feel that those groups are targeted or marginalized, then you yourself are so privileged, you're probably protecting someone who's targeting those groups.
Yeah.
So, which side do you want to be on? If you feel like it's not a problem, you are the problem, or you're protecting the problem. And that's where, when people post, I would hide Anne Frank. Would you? Because right now you're hiding Uncle Adolf. You know what? Would you though? And it's as easy as just acknowledging it's real.
Acknowledging that it's real, acknowledging that it's complex and messy, acknowledging fragility, white fragility, understanding that you are going to deal with shame, you're going to deal with guilt, you're going to deal with helplessness and feeling like you're not doing enough. I mean, we have many thoughts all at the same time. And that's why it's really important for people to know where they're at and role play and practice in your head. How are you going to do things? But if you have the ability to say, you know what, I just don't want to deal with this right now. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Helping the group, I don't want to get involved. That's privilege.
Absolutely.
To be able to walk away from something. Marginalized communities can't walk away. They can't change the color of their skin. They shouldn't have to change their faith and identity or their gender sexual identity. They shouldn't have to change anything to fit your needs. If you are asking people to change essential pieces of who they are to fit your needs and your community, that is privilege. And that is where we need to do the work as white allies, is to have those conversations. Why is immigration such a tough topic for you? Where are you getting your facts? Tell me more about how does this make you feel? Let's talk about it right now.
Show us on the cutout where you've been hurt by immigration, and then show me your grandparents' papers. I've talked about, again, that to be white in America is to be an immigrant, to be a colonizer, to have come here at all different eras and for all different reasons. And it's both wonderful and terrible how I'm allowed to be extremely proud of my Irish heritage. But at the same time, for our country right now to say, well, that's an okay one, but this one over here, you can't be proud to be Latino. You can't be proud to be from any country in Asia, any country in the Arab nations. You can't show your pride in your ethnicity, but oh, you're German, that's okay. You're Swedish, that's okay. The disparity of that, the people not realizing the irony of that.
Well, it's not recognizing the systemic racism that is baked into every aspect of our nation. It is in our history. It is in our policies. It is taught from parent to child, teacher to child, clergy to child, neighbor to child. And speaking of when people reflect on their ancestors and how they came here and say, well, they came here legally. Immigration 100 years ago, totally different than what it is now.
Right.
So it is not appropriate to make that comparison, because reporting to Ellis Island and looking at you to see if you're healthy or not, and then stamping a piece of paper and you come in and you're a citizen, is much different than the years and years and time to go through all the hoops of the bureaucracy of immigration. If we didn't have such a cumbersome immigration policy here in the United States, we wouldn't have the issues that we are having right now.
Right. Right. And we're in, I mean, I talked with on one of my vlogs last year about the H2A and H2B visas and how dependent our state is on migrant workers and how COVID affected that. And there were migrant workers that, because of travel bans, were trapped. Visas lapsed, things changed. Maybe they met someone and fell in love and have children now. And they're in the middle of following through with all that bureaucracy. And now, you know, you were dependent on them to milk your cows yesterday. Why are they less of a person to you today?
Racism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's understanding that everybody has the potential to be racist. Every white person has the potential to be racist, maybe was racist, maybe still is racist, but you still have the chance to change your mind and to understand, oh, shoot, I said that. And yep, I created harm by saying that. I need to repair, I need to apologize, and I need to refrain from saying it. I mean, it is a muscle of understanding, oh, shoot, I learned that growing up. Oh, that was okay to say that 20 years ago, and now it's not. Don't reflect on why it just is. It's not appropriate now. And don't use it. Don't justify it and say, I have the right to say hurtful words.
And I try to remind people it wasn't okay 20 years ago. It wasn't okay 60 years ago. It wasn't okay. It happened, but it wasn't okay.
You're exactly right. Exactly right.
Or when people say, well, they're from a different time, there were good people and bad people in those times. There are lots of people that didn't use those words, that didn't do those things.
Yes.
Ruby Bridges is alive and well today. Just because the photos of little Ruby are in black and white doesn't mean it was so long ago that your grandparents and parents weren't around when it happened.
Exactly. You know, exactly.
She's alive in my lifetime, in my child's lifetime. So it happened in our generation. And I think that's another thing. There's a lot of media spin since the dawn of media of how we make things look. You know.
And with social media, we are given the capability of being as mean as we want because it's just on a keyboard. And we're not on the other side envisioning what that child is thinking if they see it, or what is happening when the mom sees it and starts crying and her child walks into the room.
Right.
And do you tell that child, well, we're less than because of the color of our skin?
Yeah.
How do you explain racism? And that is where we do need to step into that brave space. We do need to say, you know what, I'm not going to participate in this.
Right.
And I may lose people along the line, but you have to be assured in knowing that loving your neighbor as yourself is an action. It is something you must do. It's not, the golden rule is found in every religion. Mm-hmm. And it is not saying I'm only going to love my Christian neighbors. I'm only going to love my white Christian neighbors. It's loving everybody and being kind to everybody and teaching our kids how to be kind to everybody, teaching our grandparents how to be kind to everybody.
Right.
Don't spend time in the shame category. Don't spend time making people feel bad for what they have said. You're wasting the time. The energy should be on, okay, you did that. Fine. Let's move on.
Today and tomorrow are new.
Yeah. What can we do now to make our community safer and feel loved? And so it is, sometimes people are just afraid of what they're going to lose. And that's the privilege.
Right.
And that's the privilege that other people don't have. So it's our job to leverage that privilege. And it goes back to, what did the Germans do? What did they do when they smelled the burning bodies in the crematoriums? What did they do when they saw their neighbors being taken away?
Gone.
Even
if they didn't see the moment of being taken.
And history looks back at that as absolutely horrible.
Absolutely. Apathy is a type of, it's a type of violence.
It is, because that's
a type of violence. Yeah.
That's privilege. You have the ability to be apathetic to something. That's your privilege.
Absolutely.
Allowing you to be apathetic. And so and that's one of the reasons why I think it's not being taught in our schools, some of the atrocities that have taken place and how the colonization of our indigenous communities, the level of depravity and torture and dehumanization that took place, is because we don't want to feel the guilt. We don't want to feel the badness. And we have to. We absolutely have to. By not feeling it, we're going into the apathy category. We're going into the wrong side. We need to feel it, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to suck, and it's going to stink, and you're going to cry, and you're going to be angry. But darn it, the marginalized are feeling it every day.
And we don't teach in our educational, for as much as I may have learned about Auschwitz and not learned about what did the common German public do, I know that wasn't taught. But at the same time, I was never taught that during the same era here in the United States, we had Japanese internment camps. I learned that in adulthood, that we had concentration camps at the same time.
Yes.
And that people that, again, are alive, that were children at that time, that are alive right now, that I could go and talk to about what was your experience in an internment camp, and what did you lose, and what did you go back to? And I never want to be those Americans that allowed that. I don't want to be that. And I don't know why so many of my fellow Americans think they do. But
racism.
Yep.
It is believing that you are superior and that your faith is superior, the color of your skin is superior, your ethnicity is superior, your political stance is superior, your wealth is superior. It's about me, 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 and not about us, 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 us.
Right.
And it's hard. It is really hard, but it is something we need to do, because if we don't, all we are doing is repeating history at a faster rate, at
more sweeping and ugly rate. With our modern technology, the things, if we keep following this path, the things that are going to happen are going to be so sweeping, and it makes me quite ill to know that I live in a state that gave a majority to vote to what I consider a regime. And
it starts with conversations. It starts with community. How did you come to this? Why did you vote like this? Why do you support this? And having conversations instead of shouting matches or judging somebody. It is trying to get to know why do you believe this way? Why do you believe that our community from South America, Central America, are not worthy of the American dream?
Right.
It is having those questions. And most people, they just see the meme on social media and it's posted by somebody they follow or somebody that they want to be a part of. Political systems create cultures of belonging. And sometimes we feel lost and don't know who to belong to, and we want to be a part of something. And we need to do a better job of creating that belonging and hoping people want to be a part of the change instead of being perpetrators or standing on the sidelines and not doing anything.
And I think that that is a great ending statement to wrap on is, yeah, be on the side of good, and don't be a perpetrator or just a bystander. Don't weaponize your privilege.
Yes, and just understand where your privilege is and what can you do to leverage to bring goodness to one person. It doesn't have to be the whole population all at once.
Right.
It is one person, one interaction, one smile, one saying hello. It's the practice of doing good, to do good for no other reason except for
To do good.
to do good.
Yes. Well, I thank you, Jen. I'm super appreciative of you giving me this time and the links and the trainings, and I'm going to be sharing them all over. I'm gonna wave goodbye to Jen now.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you. I'm going to wrap up, everybody, and thanks for. This has been a really detailed one. I've been posting links in the comments. I'll be sharing links. I know there are several links I need to share, but no matter who you are, the Know Your Rights education is important to all of us. A lot of people talk about the founding fathers and the Constitution, our constitutional rights. A lot of those apply to visitors to our country as well, not just citizens. So look that up and learn that. And I encourage you all, in the essence of trust no one, if you trust someone, build your networks outside of our current social medias. I know that that's something I've worked on doing. Build your ways to connect with people. And stay safe, everybody. Stay safe, stay warm. Bye.